Kang Daiho wiped sweat from his forehead as he maneuvered his cargo freighter through the atmosphere of Velthara Prime. The ship groaned and rattled like it always did, and he whispered a small prayer that it wouldn't fall apart before he finished this delivery. He needed this payment. His landlord back on Mars Station had sent 3 angry messages this week alone. The planet below looked beautiful from space, with its purple oceans and golden continents. Velthara Prime was famous across the galaxy as neutral ground where hundreds of alien species met for trade and diplomacy. At the center of the main continent stood something even more famous, the Temple of Ascendance. Daiho had seen pictures of it before. Everyone had. The massive structure jutted into the sky like a mountain made of black crystal, with gates that supposedly hadn't opened in millions of years. Daiho didn't care much about ancient temples. He cared about the 5,000 credits waiting for him if he delivered these agricultural equipment crates on time. 5,000 credits meant he could pay rent, buy real food instead of instant noodles, and maybe fix the life support system that kept making weird clicking sounds. He landed his ship at the commercial port and spent the next hour arguing with customs officials about his cargo manifest. 3 different aliens checked his paperwork, each speaking through translation devices that made their voices sound mechanical. Finally, they cleared him and he loaded the crates onto a rented hover truck. The warehouse was on the east side of the city, according to his navigation device. Daiho had never been to Velthara Prime before, but the device promised to guide him through the streets. He started driving, watching tall buildings pass by on either side. Aliens of every shape and size walked the sidewalks. He saw beings made of crystalline structures, others with multiple arms, some that floated without legs, and a few that looked almost human except for their purple skin or extra eyes. Halfway to the warehouse, his navigation device started glitching. The screen flickered and showed him turning left, then right, then left again. Daiho smacked it with his palm, which usually fixed technical problems on his ship. It didn't help. The device showed his location jumping randomly across the map. He pulled over and picked up the device, shaking it gently. Nothing changed. Traffic moved around him and a few aliens honked their vehicles in annoyance. Daiho decided to just drive in what he thought was the right direction. How hard could it be to find a warehouse? Very hard, apparently. 20 minutes later, he found himself in a quiet district with ancient-looking buildings made of white stone. The streets were narrower here, winding between structures that seemed far older than the modern city around them. Daiho realized he must be near the temple district. He needed to turn around. He stopped the hover truck and got out, still holding his malfunctioning navigation device. The thing kept blinking and showing error messages. Daiho tapped it, shook it, and even tried turning it off and on again. Nothing worked. Frustrated, he walked backward while staring at the screen, trying to figure out which direction he'd come from. His back hit something solid, something that felt smooth and cold like metal. Daiho stumbled forward, caught his balance, and turned around to see what he'd bumped into. The Temple of Ascendance stood before him. Somehow, while distracted by his navigation device, he'd wandered right up to it. The temple was even more impressive in person. It rose at least 100 meters high, its black crystal surface reflecting the afternoon sun. The main gate stood directly in front of him, each one carved with symbols and patterns that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. Daiho stared at the gates for a moment, then noticed something strange. They were glowing. Soft golden light traced along the carved patterns, growing brighter as he watched. The light spread from where his back had touched the gates outward, flowing across the entire surface like water. "That's weird," Daiho muttered. The gates began to move. They swung inward slowly, smoothly, without making a sound. Golden light spilled out from the darkness inside, and Daiho felt a warm breeze wash over him. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet he couldn't identify. He heard screaming behind him. Daiho spun around and saw dozens of aliens standing in the street, all of them staring at him with expressions he couldn't read on their alien faces. But their body language looked like shock. Several of them pointed at him. Others held up devices, probably recording what was happening. A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms rushed forward. It wore an elaborate uniform with symbols Daiho recognized as belonging to the Galactic Council. The alien started speaking rapidly in a language the translation device in Daiho's ear struggled to convert. "You, the gates. They opened. How did you open them? What are you? Are you the prophesied one?" "I just bumped into them," Daiho said, backing away from the excited alien. It was an accident. I got lost looking for a warehouse. More aliens crowded around now. Some looked excited, others frightened. A few kept a suspicious distance. Deho's translation device worked overtime, converting multiple conversations happening around him. The gates haven't opened in recorded history. Only a legendary being could activate them. What species is that? A human. Humans are barely spacefaring. How could one be chosen? This must be verified immediately. Someone grabbed Deho's arm. He yanked it away and held up his hands. Listen, there's been a mistake. I'm nobody. I'm just a cargo hauler. I was trying to deliver some farming equipment and got lost. I didn't mean to touch the gates. The gates cannot be fooled, said the four-armed official, stepping closer. For millions of years, legendary warriors, god emperors, and transcendent beings have attempted to open them. All failed. Yet you, claiming to be ordinary, merely touched them and they responded. This is impossible unless you are truly legendary. I'm really not, Deho insisted. He looked back at the gates, still standing open, golden light pouring out. Can't they just close again? Maybe it was a malfunction. The Temple of Ascendance does not malfunction, another alien said, this one resembling a floating jellyfish made of purple crystal. You have been chosen. The galaxy must know. Within minutes, more officials arrived. Someone from the Galactic Council, someone from the Temple Watch, and several security forces from different species. They surrounded Deho, asking questions faster than his translator could keep up. His navigation device, still in his hand, finally rebooted and showed he was only 3 blocks from the warehouse where he was supposed to deliver his cargo. Deho wanted to laugh. Or cry, he wasn't sure which. He'd come to this planet for a simple delivery job. 5,000 credits. That was all he wanted. Now he stood in front of an ancient temple that had apparently decided he was special. Surrounded by aliens who thought he was some kind of chosen one, and his cargo was still sitting in the hover truck 3 blocks from its destination. A human woman pushed through the crowd. She was young, maybe late 20s, wearing practical clothes and carrying a tablet computer. She looked as stressed as Deho felt. Mr. Kang, I'm Ambassador Im Jiwoo, representing Earth in the Galactic Council. We need to talk right now. Deho looked at her, then at the open gates, then at the crowd of aliens recording him with their devices. Somewhere in the galaxy, people were probably already seeing this. His face would be everywhere. The human who opened the impossible gates. I just wanted to deliver some cargo, he said quietly. Ambassador Im took his arm firmly, but not unkindly. I know, come with me. We have a serious situation to deal with. As she led him away from the temple, Deho glanced back one more time. The gates remained open, golden light still shining as if waiting for him to return. Ambassador Im Jiwoo brought Deho to a secure building near the Galactic Council headquarters. Armed guards stood at every entrance, and Deho noticed they represented at least 5 different alien species. Inside, the building was cold and clinical, with white walls and bright lights that hurt his eyes. They put him in a conference room with a table, some chairs, and a window that looked out over the city. Deho could see the temple in the distance, its gates still open and glowing. Crowds had gathered around it, kept back by security barriers. How much trouble am I in? Deho asked. Ambassador Im sat across from him, her tablet already displaying news feeds from across the galaxy. Every single one showed footage of him backing into the temple gates. You're not in trouble, but you've created a very complicated situation. She pulled up a holographic display that showed messages flooding in from various governments and organizations. Deho couldn't read most of them because they were in alien languages, but he saw numbers. Hundreds of messages, then thousands. The Valon hegemony wants to meet with you immediately, Ambassador Im said, scrolling through the messages. They're offering you a position as Supreme General of their military forces. The Theos Collective has declared you a holy figure and wants you to lead their pilgrimage into the temple. At least 15 bounty hunting guilds have posted contracts for your capture, though I've filed protests about those. And the Remnant Order, whoever they are, sent a warning that you should not enter the temple under any circumstances. Deho rubbed his face with both hands. I just wanted to deliver my cargo. Did anyone at least unload my hover truck? Your cargo has been confiscated for security analysis, Ambassador Im said. You'll be compensated. Great, Deho muttered. There goes my payment again. The door opened and a young woman entered, carrying what looked like a decade's worth of research materials in both physical and digital format. She was human, probably in her early 30s with her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a jacket covered in academic pins and badges. "Mr. Kang, I'm Han Mirai from the Galactic University Xenoarchaeology Department. I've been studying the Temple of Ascendance for 6 years. May I interview you?" "Sure," Deho said. "But I already told everyone it was an accident." Mirai set up her recording equipment and pulled out a digital tablet filled with questions. For the next 3 hours, she asked him everything about his life. Where he was born, what his parents did, his education, his work history,
his health,
his hobbies, every detail she could think of. Deho answered honestly, though it made him feel embarrassed. His life sounded even more pathetic when he had to explain it out loud. He dropped out of engineering school because he couldn't afford tuition. Worked a dozen different jobs, none of them successfully. Started a cargo hauling business that barely broke even. His ship was falling apart. He lived in a tiny apartment with a broken air conditioner. His most exciting life experience was accidentally finding a shortcut through an asteroid field while running from debt collectors. Mirai wrote everything down, her expression growing more confused as the interview went on. When they finished, she sat back in her chair and stared at her notes. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "The legends say only beings of extraordinary achievement can open the gates. But you're nobody," Deho finished. "I know. I've been trying to tell people that, no?" Mirai said slowly. "Not nobody. Just ordinary. Very ordinary. There has to be something I'm missing." Ambassador Im had been making calls in the corner of the room. She returned to the table looking stressed. "We have a problem. The Valon hegemony is sending a diplomatic ship. They're demanding access to you for testing and study. If we refuse, they're threatening sanctions against Earth. Can they do that?" Deho asked. "Unfortunately, yes. Earth is still considered a minor power in galactic politics. We don't have the military or economic strength to stand up to major empires like the Valon." Mirai looked up from her notes. "What if we enter the temple? If Deho goes inside and comes back out with nothing, it might prove the gate opening was just a fluke. The other factions would lose interest. Or it could make things worse," Ambassador Im said. "What if there's something inside that makes this situation even more complicated?" They argued for a while, but Deho barely listened. He looked out the window at the temple. The gates remained open, and he could see golden light still shining from inside. People said those gates had been closed for millions of years. Legendary warriors had tried to open them. God emperors, immortal beings. All of them failed. But a cargo hauler who couldn't pay his rent had succeeded by accident. The door burst open again. This time armed guards rushed in, followed by a massive alien that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a bear, standing at least 8 feet tall. It wore armor covered in military decorations. "I am General Brenax of the Korthan Empire," the alien announced, its voice deep and rumbling even through the translation device. "I have fought in 100 campaigns across 40 star systems. I have conquered worlds and broken armies. I demand to test myself against these temple gates." Ambassador Im stood up, positioning herself between the alien and Deho. "General, this is a diplomatic facility. You can't just—" "I have authorization from the Galactic Council for this experiment," Brenax said, displaying a holographic document. "If the gates respond to ordinary beings, they should respond to truly legendary warriors. I will prove this human success was merely an anomaly." They all went back to the temple, now surrounded by even larger crowds and more security. News crews from hundreds of worlds had set up cameras. Deho felt like he was in some kind of bizarre reality show. General Brenax approached the gates confidently. The alien placed one massive hand against the crystal surface and waited. Nothing happened. Brenax pushed harder, then struck the gates with enough force to crack stone. Still nothing. The gates remained open, but they didn't respond to the general at all. Frustrated, Brenax stepped back. "This proves nothing. The gates are already open because of the human. We must close them and test properly." "The gates won't close," said an elderly alien that resembled a floating crystal jellyfish. It wore robes marking it as a Temple Watch official. "They have never closed once opened, according to all historical records. They remain open until someone enters and completes the temple's purpose. Then let the human enter," Brenax demanded. Deho looked at Ambassador Im, who shook her head slightly. But what choice did he have? Sooner or later, someone would force him into the temple anyway. The Valon hegemony ship would arrive soon. Other factions were making demands. Maybe Mirai was right. Maybe if he went inside and nothing happened, everyone would realize this was all just a weird mistake. "I'll do it," Deho said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Ambassador Im started to object, but Deho held up his hand. "I'm going to enter the temple. If it was really meant for me, then I need to see what's inside. And if it wasn't, then maybe it'll close once I go in and come back out with nothing." Mirai stepped forward. "I'm coming with you. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for research." "Absolutely not," Ambassador Im said. "If something happens to you both, Earth will—" "I'm coming too," the ambassador interrupted herself with a sigh. "If anyone's going to protect Earth's interests, it should be me." General Brenax crossed its massive arms. "The Korthan Empire demands representation. I will join this expedition." The crystal jellyfish alien floated forward. "I am Quilmesh of the Nexari, Senior Temple Watch official. It is my duty to observe and document what occurs inside." So it was decided. 5 beings would enter the Temple of Ascendance together. 1 ordinary human cargo hauler, 1 ambitious xenoarchaeologist, 1 stressed diplomat, 1 frustrated warrior, and 1 floating crystal observer. Deho looked at the open gates and the golden light beyond them. Part of him wanted to run away, get back in his ship and fly to the other side of the galaxy where no one knew his face, but he was tired of running. His whole life had been running from debts, from failures, from responsibilities. Maybe it was time to walk through a door instead of away from it, even if he had no idea what was on the other side. "Okay," Deho said. "Let's go see what's inside this thing." The 5 of them walked toward the temple gates, together while billions of beings across the galaxy watched and wondered what would happen next. The moment they crossed through the gates, everything changed. Deho expected to walk into some kind of building, maybe see ancient walls and corridors. Instead, he found himself standing in a space that seemed infinite. The ground beneath his feet looked solid and felt solid, made of the same black crystal as the temple's exterior. But when he looked up, he saw stars. Not a ceiling painted to look like stars, but actual stars, thousands of them, stretching in every direction. "This is impossible," Mirai whispered, pulling out scanning devices and pointing them everywhere. "The temple's exterior is maybe 100 meters tall and 50 meters wide. But this space is—" She checked her device, then checked it again. "My scanner can't find any walls. According to this, we're standing in open space." General Brenax drew a weapon, some kind of energy blade that glowed blue. "Stay alert. Ancient temples often contain defense systems." Quilmesh, the floating crystal alien, pulsed with soft light as it performed its own scans. "The architecture defies known physics. The interior space is larger than the exterior structure. Significantly larger." Ambassador Im stayed close to Deho. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "I'm fine," Deho said, though his heart was racing. "Just confused. I thought there'd be, rooms and stuff." As they moved forward, the crystal floor beneath them began to glow with the same golden light from the gates. Lines of light traced patterns ahead of them, forming a path. Symbols appeared along the edges of the path, writing in a language Deho didn't recognize. Even his translation device couldn't make sense of it. Mirai practically ran along the path, recording everything with multiple devices. "These symbols are in Proto-Veltharan script, but older than any examples we've found. Some of these characters don't exist in modern databases. They followed the glowing path for what felt like an hour, but might have been minutes. Time seemed strange here. Eventually, the path led them to a large circular platform where the walls finally appeared, forming a chamber around them. The walls showed images, constantly shifting and changing. Deho saw battles between alien species, planets being built and destroyed, ships traveling between stars, beings made of pure energy dancing through space. "Welcome," a voice said, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. It spoke in perfect English to Deho, though he heard the others react as if it spoke their languages too. "Who are you?" Ambassador Im demanded, her hand moving toward a small weapon at her belt. "I am the temple," the voice said. "Or rather, I am the caretaker of this place left by those who built it. You have entered seeking answers." "The human opened your gates," Brenax said, pointing at Deho. "Explain why." "A test is required first," the temple said. "All who enter must prove themselves." The chamber changed. The walls dropped away, and suddenly they stood in what looked like an arena. Holographic enemies appeared around them. Dozens of them, each one looking fierce and heavily armed. They looked like projections but felt somehow real. "Combat trial initiated," the temple announced. Defeat the opponents or be removed from the temple. Brenax roared with excitement and charged forward, energy blade swinging. The general moved with impressive skill, cutting through holographic enemies efficiently. But for everyone Brenax defeated, two more appeared. Quill mesh floated upward, shooting energy bolts from crystalline formations on its body. Ambassador Im had her weapon out now too, firing carefully aimed shots. Mirai stayed close to Daiho, who stood frozen in the center of the arena. "I don't know how to fight," Daiho said, watching enemies approach him. "I never learned." An enemy swung a blade at him. Daiho jumped back instinctively, tripped over his own feet, and fell. The blade missed him by centimeters. He scrambled backward as another enemy approached. His hand touched something on the ground, a piece of debris from one of the holographic enemies Brenax had destroyed. Without thinking, Daiho threw it at the nearest enemy. It hit the hologram in the face, and the enemy flickered and disappeared. Daiho stared at his hand, surprised. That actually worked? More enemies came at him. Daiho grabbed another piece of debris and threw it, then another. He wasn't trying to fight properly. He was treating this like when he loaded cargo on his ship, finding things and putting them where they needed to go. Except in this case, he was putting debris into enemy faces. It was ridiculous. It shouldn't have worked. But somehow it did. An enemy tried to corner him near a pillar. Daiho remembered a trick from his cargo loading days when he needed to move heavy containers. He positioned himself on one side of the pillar and waited until the enemy charged, then dodged at the last second. The enemy couldn't stop its momentum and crashed into the pillar, shattering into pixels. Brenax was breathing hard, still fighting. The general looked frustrated. "These enemies are too strong. They adapt to my fighting style." But they didn't seem to adapt to Daiho not having a fighting style. He kept dodging, throwing things, using the environment, and somehow staying alive. It felt like playing a video game on the easiest difficulty setting where the enemies were programmed to miss. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, all the enemies disappeared. The arena faded back into the chamber with its shifting walls. "Combat trial complete," the temple said, and it sounded confused. That probably wasn't possible for an ancient artificial intelligence, but Daiho could swear he heard confusion in its voice. "That was absurd," Brenax said, staring at Daiho. "You have no training, no technique. You survived through luck and accident." "I know," Daiho said, breathing heavily. "That's kind of my thing." The chamber changed again. This time, the walls displayed a complex puzzle with thousands of symbols arranged in patterns. Mathematical equations appeared in alien languages. Historical events from civilizations Daiho had never heard of needed to be placed in chronological order. "Knowledge trial initiated," the temple announced. Mirai's eyes lit up. This was her specialty. She approached the puzzle wall and began working on it immediately, muttering to herself about archaeological periods and ancient calendar systems. She solved sections of the puzzle quickly, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. But then she got stuck. A section of the puzzle remained unsolved, showing a series of symbols that needed to be activated in a specific sequence. Mirai tried different combinations based on her knowledge of ancient cultures. Nothing worked. "This doesn't match any known civilization's patterns," she said, frustrated. Daiho wandered over to look at the puzzle, not because he thought he could help, but because he had nothing else to do. The symbols looked vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place why. He stared at them for a moment, then laughed. "What's funny?" Ambassador Im asked. "These symbols," Daiho said, pointing. "They look like the power-up sequence from this old video game I used to play. Star Raiders or something. You had to press buttons in a certain order to unlock weapons." Just to see what happened, he reached out and touched the symbols in the same sequence he remembered from the game. The puzzle glowed, chimed, and solved itself. The wall opened to reveal another path forward. Everyone stared at him. That was pure chance," Mirai said. "There's no way that's the actual solution." "Knowledge trial complete," the temple said, and now it definitely sounded confused. They moved forward through the new opening. Brenax walked beside Daiho, studying him like he was some kind of alien specimen. "You defeated trained warriors by throwing trash at them. You solved an ancient puzzle with video game knowledge. Either you're the luckiest being in the galaxy, or something very strange is happening." "I vote for lucky," Daiho said. "I mean, not usually. Usually I'm incredibly unlucky. But today seems different." Quill mesh floated ahead of them, its crystalline body pulsing with light. "The temple's behavior is unprecedented. I have studied historical records of other ancient testing sites. They are designed to challenge beings in ways appropriate to their nature. A warrior faces combat. A scholar faces knowledge tests. But this temple seems uncertain how to challenge you. Maybe it's broken, Deho suggested. I mean, it's been closed for millions of years, right? Things break down over time. I know that better than anyone. My ship falls apart constantly. They entered a new chamber and Deho saw something that made his heart sink. The entrance they'd come through sealed itself behind them. Solid crystal wall, no door, no way back. We're trapped, Ambassador Im said, confirming what everyone could see. No, the temple voice said. You are not trapped. You are committed. The only path now is forward, deeper into the temple toward the truth of why you are here. Deho looked at his companions. Mirai looked excited despite the danger. Quillmesh seemed fascinated. Branax appeared ready for whatever came next. Ambassador Im looked worried but determined. I really should have just delivered that cargo, Deho muttered. But there was no choice now except to keep moving forward into whatever mysteries the temple held. They walked for what felt like days, through corridors that constantly shifted and changed. Sometimes the path went up, sometimes down, sometimes sideways in ways that made Deho's head hurt. Quillmesh explained it was probably the temple manipulating gravity in space, but that didn't make it any less weird. Eventually, they reached a massive chamber that made all the previous rooms look tiny. It stretched in all directions farther than Deho could see, filled with thousands of crystalline pillars that glowed with soft blue light. Each pillar contained something, images and data flowing through them like waterfalls made of information. What is this place? Mirai asked, approaching the nearest pillar. An archive, the temple voice said. Records of every being who attempted to enter these gates over millions of years. Mirai touched a pillar, and it activated, displaying a holographic figure above it. The figure looked like a god, tall and radiant with energy crackling around its body. Text appeared in multiple languages and Deho's translation device worked to convert it. Emperor Valth the Eternal, Mirai read aloud, conquered 40 star systems. Lived for 10,000 years through advanced technology. United his entire species under one rule. Attempted to enter the temple and failed. The gates did not respond. She moved to another pillar. Queen Shara of the Dawn Fleet. Led her people from slavery to freedom. Defeated 3 separate empires. Wrote the Universal Rights Declaration that still guides galactic law. She couldn't open the gates either. Pillar after pillar showed the same pattern. Legendary warriors who won countless battles. Scientists who solved impossible problems. Leaders who changed the course of galactic history. Beings who achieved immortality or transcended physical form. All of them tried to enter the temple. None succeeded. I don't understand, Ambassador Im said. These beings accomplished amazing things. They were truly legendary. But Deho just bumped into the gates by accident and they opened. Why? Branax had been studying the pillars too, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. There must be something we're missing about the human. Some hidden achievement or quality? No, Mirai said slowly. She'd been moving from pillar to pillar, scanning everything, taking notes frantically. I don't think it's about achievement. Look at the pattern. Every being here had already reached their peak. They had nothing left to prove. They were finished with their growth. Finished? Quillmesh asked, floating closer. Think about it, Mirai said, her voice getting excited the way it did when she figured out a puzzle. Emperor Valth conquered everything he wanted. Queen Shara freed her people and wrote laws that lasted centuries. They completed their life's work. They became legends. Past tense. Their stories were over. She turned to look at Deho. But you're not finished. You're still struggling. Still failing. Still trying to figure out your life. You're not a legend. You're not even particularly successful. You're just someone in the middle of their story. Still growing, still changing. That's not a good thing, Deho said. That just means I'm a failure who can't get his life together. Or it means you still have potential, Mirai said. These legendary beings, they reached their endpoint. They became static. Perfect maybe, but unchanging. You're still dynamic. Still capable of growth. Fascinating theory, the temple voice said, startling all of them. And surprisingly accurate. The pillars around them began to glow brighter. The floor beneath them became transparent, revealing swirling energy below. A form began to materialize in the center of the chamber. Not quite solid, not quite holographic. It looked vaguely humanoid but kept shifting, as if it couldn't decide what shape to take. I am what remains of the builders, the form said. Not a single consciousness, but the collective memory and purpose of an entire civilization. We have waited a very long time for the right kind of being to open our gates. What do you want? Ambassador Im asked, her hand near her weapon even though she probably knew it was useless here. To explain, the form said, and to offer a choice. But first you must understand who we were. My people achieved perfection millions of years ago. We solved every problem, cured every disease, extended our lives indefinitely, created technology that could reshape reality itself. We became gods in every meaningful way. The form flickered, showing images of a magnificent civilization, cities floating in space, beings of pure energy dancing between stars, machines that could build entire planets in days. And it destroyed us, the form continued. Not through war or disaster, but through stagnation. Once we achieved perfection, we had nothing left to strive for. No challenges to overcome. No growth to pursue. We became static, unchanging, and slowly we faded away. Not through death, but through losing the will to continue. Perfection, we learned too late, is the death of purpose. Deho listened, trying to understand. So you built this temple to find someone who isn't perfect? More specifically, we sought species and individuals who still possess the capacity for growth through adversity, the ability to fail and continue, to be broken and rebuild, to be ordinary and find that acceptable while still reaching for more. Brinax made a frustrated sound. I have overcome countless adversities. I have failed in battle and learned from it. I have grown stronger through every challenge. Yes, the form agreed. But you have perfected the art of war. You have reached your peak as a warrior. Where you stand now is magnificent, but it is an endpoint. You have specialized yourself into a corner. You are a finished product. The form turned to Quillmesh. Your species has transcended biological limitation, becoming beings of living crystal. A remarkable achievement, but it leaves you locked in that form forever. Another endpoint. Then to Ambassador Im. You have mastered the art of diplomacy and leadership. Your skills are impressive, your achievements significant, but you have found your calling and perfected it. You are complete in your role. And to Mirai. You have devoted your life to understanding the past. You are brilliant at your work, but you have chosen your path and committed to it fully. Your story is being written in a single direction. Finally, the form looked at Deho. But you have failed at education, failed at business, failed at dozens of different paths. You are drowning in debt, living in a broken ship, delivering cargo for minimal pay. By any measure of success, you are ordinary at best, unsuccessful at worst. Thanks, Deho said dryly. That's really making me feel great about myself. But you continue, the form said. You keep trying new things. You adapt, you improvise, you find ways to survive despite constant failure. You have not specialized into perfection. You remain flexible, capable of growth in unexpected directions. You are unfinished, and that is precisely what we sought. The chamber changed again, walls displaying complex information. Mirai gasped as she recognized technical diagrams and scientific formulas far beyond current galactic knowledge. We offer humanity a gift, the form said, access to our technology and knowledge, enough to elevate your species to a dominant position in the galaxy. Medical technology that could eliminate disease. Energy systems that could power your civilization for millions of years. Transportation that could cross the galaxy in days. All of this and more if you accept. Ambassador Im's eyes went wide. Deho could see her calculating the political implications. This kind of technology would make Earth a superpower overnight. What's the catch? Deho asked. Because there was always a catch. The catch is that accepting this gift might end humanity's growth period, the form said. Species who gain too much too quickly often become like us or like the legends who tried to enter this temple. They reach a peak and stagnate. They finish their story and have nowhere else to go. So we can have power but lose our potential? Mirai asked. Potentially, yes. Or you might use the knowledge wisely and continue growing. Or you might reject the offer entirely and remain as you are. The choice is yours. The form looked at Deho specifically. More accurately, the choice is yours. You open the gates. You pass the trials, however unconventionally. The temple recognizes you as the decision-maker. Deho felt everyone's eyes on him. The weight of choosing for his entire species pressed down on his shoulders. He was just a cargo hauler who couldn't pay his rent. How was he supposed to make this kind of decision? But maybe that was exactly why he had to make it. Deho sat down on the crystal floor, not caring how it looked. His legs felt weak and his head was spinning. Everyone waited for him to speak, to make some wise decision that would affect billions of humans across dozens of colony worlds. But he had no idea what to say. "Can I get some time to think?" he asked the shimmering form. "Time moves differently here," the form said. "Take as long as you need." Ambassador Im knelt beside him. Deho, from a political standpoint, accepting this technology would secure Earth's position in the galaxy. We wouldn't have to worry about being pushed around by larger empires anymore. We could protect our colonies, develop our worlds, help our people. But we might stop growing, Deho said. Become like these builders who faded away because they had nothing left to achieve. It's a risk, Ambassador Im admitted. But so is staying weak. The galaxy isn't a safe place for minor powers. Brennax stomped over, his massive form casting a shadow over Deho. In war, you take every advantage you can. Refusing power is foolish. Accept the gift, become strong. Worry about stagnation later. Respectfully, General, Mireille said. That's short-term thinking. The temple builders lasted millions of years before fading. They had everything and lost the will to exist. Is that what we want for humanity? Quillmesh floated between them all, pulsing with soft light. Perhaps the question is not whether to accept or refuse, but how to accept. The temple offered full access to their knowledge. Could you negotiate for less? For partial access that allows continued growth? Everyone looked at the crystal alien, then at Deho. The cargo hauler who'd failed at everything suddenly laughed, surprising himself and everyone else. What's funny? Ambassador Im asked. I just realized something, Deho said, standing up. This whole situation, it's like my life. I never get things handed to me fully working. My ship is always half broken. My deliveries are always partly completed. I'm always improvising, making do with less than I need. And you know what? That's probably the only reason I've survived this long. He turned to face the shimmering form of the temple intelligence. You said you were looking for species with growth potential, but you're offering us something that might kill that potential. Doesn't that seem backwards? The choice itself is part of the test, the form replied. What you choose matters as much as how you use what you're given. Then I want to negotiate, Deho said. I'm not accepting everything and I'm not refusing everything. That's not how real life works anyway. Nothing is ever all or nothing. The form seemed to shimmer with something that might have been surprise or amusement. Negotiating with an ancient temple intelligence. This has never occurred before. Proceed. Deho took a breath. He thought about his life, all his failures and small successes. He thought about what humanity actually needed versus what they wanted. Here's what I'm thinking. Humanity doesn't need to become gods overnight. We need help with real problems that are killing people right now. Medical technology, that's good. If you've got cures for diseases, we should take those. People shouldn't suffer when help exists. Ambassador Im nodded, taking notes on her device. Energy systems, too, Deho continued. Clean, sustainable energy that doesn't destroy our planets. That's practical, that's important, and honestly, it won't make us stop trying. We'll still have plenty of other problems to solve. Military technology? Brainax asked hopefully. No, Deho said firmly. Nothing that makes us too powerful too fast. That's exactly the kind of thing that would make us stop growing. If we can blow up planets, what challenges do we have left? But maybe some defensive systems, shields, protection, that kind of thing. Enough to keep us safe, but not enough to conquer everyone else. The form remained silent, listening. And education, Mireille added, speaking up. Access to your archives, but not as a download of complete knowledge. Let us study it, work for it, earn our understanding. Keep the temple open as a school, not as a gift shop. Yes, Deho said, pointing at Mireille. Exactly that. We want to learn, not to be told everything. Give us the chance to figure things out ourselves, but with better tools and teachers. He looked at the form directly. Your civilization failed because you had nothing left to strive for. Let humanity keep striving. Give us help, not completion. Give us advantages, not victory. Let us stay hungry, stay humble, stay unfinished. The chamber was silent for a long moment. The form flickered and shifted, its shape becoming more defined, almost solid. When it spoke, its voice carried something that might have been emotion. In millions of years, countless beings have entered or attempted to enter this temple. Warriors seeking power, scholars seeking knowledge, leaders seeking advantage. All of them wanted everything we could offer. You are the first to ask for less, the first to recognize that limitation is not weakness but potential. The pillars around them began to glow brighter. Information flowed through them faster. and Deho could see data organizing itself. Your proposal is acceptable, the form said. Humanity will receive medical technology to cure diseases and extend healthy life. Energy systems for sustainable development, educational access to our archives, but knowledge must be earned through study and understanding. Basic defensive capabilities, but nothing aggressive. The temple will remain open, but its deeper secrets must be unlocked through genuine achievement and growth. Ambassador Im looked like she wanted to argue for more, but she stayed quiet. Brinax grumbled about lost military advantages but didn't object. Quilmesh glowed with what might have been approval. Mirai smiled, already planning her research. There's one more thing, the form said. Other species may attempt to enter the temple now. We will test them as we tested you. Not for legendary status, but for growth potential. Species that have stagnated will be rejected. Those still growing, still striving, still unfinished may be granted similar gifts. Perhaps this will shift the galactic culture away from the worship of perfection and toward the celebration of potential. The chamber began to change. The walls became transparent, showing the outside world. Through them, Deho could see crowds still gathered around the temple, waiting to learn what had happened inside. It's time to return, the form said. Carry this message to your galaxy. Being unfinished is not a failure. It is a feature. The capacity to grow, to change, to continue striving even through defeat. That is the true mark of greatness. Golden light surrounded them all. Deho felt weightless for a moment. Then his feet touched solid ground again. They stood outside the temple gates, which remained open behind them. The crowds erupted in noise, questions being shouted from every direction. News crews pushed forward. Galactic Council officials tried to reach them. Security forces struggled to maintain order. But before anyone could swarm them, Mirai pulled out a recording device and held it up, broadcasting to every screen in the area. The temple has made its choice, she announced. Her voice amplified through the plaza's speaker system. Humanity will receive limited access to ancient technology, focused on healing and sustainability, not domination. The temple remains open to all species who demonstrate not legendary achievement, but growth potential. The age of worshipping finished perfection is over. The age of celebrating unfinished potential begins now. The crowd went wild. Some aliens cheered. Others argued. Many looked confused. Deho saw Ambassador Im already being pulled into diplomatic discussions. Brenax was surrounded by military officials. Quilmesh floated toward the temple, eager to begin official documentation. Someone grabbed Deho's arm. He turned to see Mirai smiling at him. You did it, she said. You made possibly the best decision anyone could have made. I just tried to be practical, Deho said. Take what we need, leave what could hurt us. It's basically how I run my cargo business. Take jobs I can handle. Avoid ones that seem too good to be true. That philosophy might have saved humanity from our own ambition, Mirai said. Over the next few days, things slowly calmed down. The Valon hegemony withdrew their demands, apparently more interested in studying the temple's new criteria for entry. The Theos Collective declared the opening of the temple a new holy age. Criminal bounties were canceled, though a few collectors still tried their luck and were politely escorted away by security. Deho finally received payment for his original delivery, along with substantial compensation for the confiscated cargo and his time. He used the money to properly repair his ship, pay off his debts, and even hire an assistant to help run his expanding cargo business. Turns out that being known as the man who opened the impossible gates was good for business, even if he insisted it was an accident. 3 months later, he was making another delivery to Velthara Prime. The temple still stood with its gates open, and Deho could see researchers from hundreds of species working inside, studying the archives, earning their knowledge slowly and carefully. A young alien approached him at the spaceport, a being that looked like a bipedal lizard with bright green scales. Excuse me, are you Kang Deho? The one who opened the temple gates? Yeah, Deho said. That's me. They say you're a legend, the young alien said, its eyes wide with admiration. Deho laughed and shook his head. No, not even close. I'm just a cargo hauler who got lost and bumped into a door. The temple didn't choose me because I was special. It chose me because I wasn't. I don't understand, the alien said. The temple was looking for someone unfinished, Deho explained. Someone still growing, still learning, still making mistakes and trying again. Someone who hadn't become a legend yet. Because their story wasn't over. Being ordinary, being unfinished, being imperfect, that's not a weakness. It means you still have room to grow. The young alien thought about this for a moment, then smiled. So I could open the gates too? Even though I'm just a student who fails most of my exams? Maybe, Deho said. The temple is open now. It's testing everyone who enters, looking for growth potential instead of past achievements. You might be exactly what it's looking for. As he walked back to his ship, Deho looked up at the temple one more time. The gates remained open, golden light spilling out, waiting for the next unfinished story to walk through. Somewhere in the galaxy, another ordinary being was probably struggling with ordinary problems, never knowing they carried extraordinary potential. And that, Deho thought, was exactly how it should be. The universe didn't need more legends. It needed more people willing to stay unfinished, to keep growing, to keep trying even when they failed. He climbed into his ship, started the engines, and set course for his next delivery. There was cargo to haul, credits to earn, and an unfinished life to keep living. And for the first time in years, that felt perfectly fine.